Mr. Ching.
So just on just a quick point, very excited to see how this collaboration goes. In my district, we have both. We have community colleges that do adult ed. We also have adult ed done by local school districts. Part of the county that I represent, San Mateo County, most of the community colleges are not in areas which are easily accessible by transit or really by anything beyond a car. So if you have a car, that's great, but if you don't, it really is very, very challenging, whereas the adult ed facilities are very centrally located, very easily accessible. So, I'm very interested in seeing what you find, but would be interested also to see if there's a model that we can, have a hybrid. I'm most worried about situations like Oakland where they actually got rid of adult ed. So I think ultimately what we want to do is we may not be able to figure out who's better to run it. Maybe it's just more of a collaboration overall, but what we want to make sure is that we preserve it so that districts can't just get rid of it when the budget situation gets tough, because quite frankly it's too easy just to deprioritize that, and those are critical functions, not just for the students who are taking them, but really for economic reasons. Many of these courses are the key to really getting a better job, to really developing career skills. So I think it's so important that we find what is the best way to deliver this service and also preserve this service.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further questions, thank you very much. I look forward to that report, and I'll follow up with any questions after reviewing the report. We have one final panel, and that is to hear how this collaboration is going in reality at the local level. Dr. Bob Harper, Director of Campbell Adult and Community Education for Campbell Union High School District, and Jarek Janio, Faculty Coordinator, Santa Ana College Centennial Education Center. Dr. Harper, let's start with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize. I came up too soon. It was a fish with fowl. I have the great privilege of serving on the AB 6 work group, and absolutely underscore what Deborah Jones was saying about the quality of work that's been done there, and the report that you have that reports a lot of that. I want to make it very clear that my comments this morning are not as a member of the work group, but as somebody who works on the ground in an adult school in the K-12 system. And to answer some of the questions already asked, I think there is great concern among those of us who work in adult schools, and if the question is more clarity and direction needed, well, absolutely, is my short answer. Campbell Adult and Community Education is a part of Campbell Union High School District, serving West San Jose, part of Santa Clara, Saratoga, Los Gatos, the city of Campbell, Monte Sereno. It has a real range of demographics, including serving areas where elementary schools, although it is in the West San Jose and certain affluence there, some of the elementary schools in our service area have over 95% free and reduced lunch. So there's great poverty there. Just because it's Santa Clara County doesn't mean that there isn't great poverty. And those students, for many decades, have come to adult education sites. My district has had adult education in its building since World War I. My superintendent, my elected board of trustees is extremely interested in continuing adult education. During the years of the sweeps, 2008 and following, what I call la violencia, my district made a commitment to keep adult education, even to the point of not are suffering cuts in other programs in order to maintain an adult education program in its campuses, in its sites, in its communities, serving its parents and those most marginalized in our service area, as my superintendent says, to protect the access for those students. My superintendent is curious about what's going to happen in 2015-16. He doesn't know. They're required to do a 2-year budget. And although there's maintenance effort currently in place, what is in 2015-2016 is unclear. In some of the paper that you have for the committee meeting this morning, the Department of Finance says funding stream to the Chancellor's office in 2015-16. So my superintendent, my CBO, sees that and doesn't understand it. So in the work of the consortium, and I'm privileged to be a co-chair of our local regional consortium, 2 community college districts working together, 5 adult schools who managed to survive. And we're doing the work. We're looking at the objectives of the legislation that tells us to look at current capacity, gap, how plans to fill that gap. So the 5 adult schools kind of ask ourselves, well, are we current capacity, or are we a gap that needs to be filled? The funding for basic education for adults, non-credit in the community college is not on the map in this planning. So that $200 million isn't part of the AB 86 single categorical funding stream plan, and so it confuses us. Is our adult schools that still exist a gap, or are they somehow a base funding that's presumed to be there and a foundation upon which to build these alignments, these pathways, these pipelines for adult education students into post-secondary, into job training and jobs with family-sustaining wages? There's huge devastation that's happened in your adult education system that the state has built over the decades. 1 million fewer students are in adult education services now than were there in 2008. Sort of baffling to me and sometimes mildly annoying that when that's pointed out, somehow that's portrayed as resisting some sort of change or wanting to go back to some perfect system that exists. I want to make it very clear that adult schools in California embrace the alignment, embrace the connections, not just with the community colleges, but with libraries, community-based organizations, county social services, the workforce investment boards. All of these entities in a region need to be collected. And listening to some of the earlier conversations this morning, and all of the regional initiatives need to be connected. I mean, we need a region for regions, the way things are going. Resisting change is not my message. I embrace change. I want to see reform that serves the students I care about in ways that are even just barely suggested by the 7 objectives in the AB 86 legislation. But from what base, from what platform? My superintendent, my board of trustees want me to ask, what happens in 2015? How do they build a 2-year plan? LCFF does not have a space for adult education, and LCAP has no place to put adult education in that plan. What's happening in 2015-16? The lack of that answer, in my opinion, impedes the quality of the planning that needs to happen regionally.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Jarek Janio.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Marisucci, committee members. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to provide this testimony. I do have a printed copy, and I suppose that's been passed around. Thank you very much. I have prepared a written testimony from the perspective of a non-credit faculty. Thank you. My name is Dr. Jarek Janio, and I have been working at Rancho Santiago Community College District for over 10 years now. In my professional career as an adult educator, I have been working in capacities such as teaching of adult students and their teachers, program coordination, curriculum development, professional training since 1996. Our CCD consists of 2 colleges, Santa Ana College, which operates Centennial Education Center, where I currently work as a faculty coordinator, and Santiago Canyon College, which operates Orange Education Center, where I used to teach ESL. Between the 2 centers, there are over 40 smaller community sites in the cities of Orange and Santa Ana, where adult education classes have been provided since the district's inception in 1971. Currently, RSCCD is the 3rd largest provider of non-credit education in the state. As a faculty coordinator, I see that the focal point of the faculty in the AB 86 planning is to evaluate the current levels for adult education programs. It is the faculty task to align curriculum between the 2 systems, K-12 adult schools and college non-credit, and to plan to implement proven instructional approaches to streamline and accelerate students' progress toward their academic goals. We are still early in the process, and for now, many of the consortia are busy finding their own ways to create working groups of qualified faculty leaders who will help implement AB 86 provisions at the local level. Topics of streamlining of student progress through the system, their persistence and successful transition are stressed in those discussions. The urgency for the AB 86 work can be underscored by the specific timeline that calls for generation of a report due to the legislature by March 1st, 2015, which is meant to include complete consortia plans and conclusions drawn for those plans. We applaud the legislature for their insistence on a specific and detailed timeline, and although we seem to be on the right track, the one variable that needs to be pointed out here is that of time. Districts are working together better than ever before, but to create a robust and sustainable system that shapes lives of adult students that we serve, we need to have time to articulate, internalize, produce, and evaluate steps that we take all along the way. Within the context of AB 86 and to provide quality education for over 1 million adults in the state in the two systems, community college non-credit programs and need teachers. Currently, at Santa Ana College School of Continuing Education, student population of over 20,000 is served by 12 full-time faculty members. Adding more faculty to non-credit is, in my judgment, one of the most important variables to consider as AB 86 planning moves forward. In the meantime, Academic Senate for California Community Colleges will vote this Saturday, April 12, on resolutions urging local academic senates to use established Course Basics 21, CB 21 coding, to develop a framework for connections between credit basic skills, non-credit basic skills, and adult education offerings. It also urges local senates to recommend policies that allow their colleges to begin the practice of assigning progress indicators to all non-credit courses. Local academic senates should be active participants in the regional planning consortia, since the work of these consortia, as defined by law, is an academic and professional matter. State Academic Senate also urges the Chancellor's Office to remind local governing boards that the Title V requirements for collegial consultation with academic senates and academic and professional matters extends to the interagency legislative bodies, including joint powers authorities established between community colleges and K-12 governing boards. At this stage of the planning process, it would be of great importance for the consortia to look at the existing models of service to identify sustainable and proven examples of work. Workforce Investment Act federally funded grant, Title II, also known as AFLA, is one such example. CalPro, which is one of the leadership projects funded with the federal money, provides for staff development, and professional development needs to be stressed here. CalPro provides, for example, for a program known as Professional Learning Communities, PLCs. And that's a program that allows teachers, faculty, to gather, to collect evidence of student learning, talk about that evidence, and act with some specific curricular interventions. It is also important for non-credit to have access to California Community Colleges Success Network, the 3CSN, to enhance professional development, and finally, at the time when faculty are increasingly aware of the importance of data-driven instruction, Chancellor's Office scorecard needs to be more reflective of the success stories that the non-credit has to offer. Non-credit faculty understand the importance of alignment of the system that is necessary to make seamless connections for students who move in and out of educational structures we provide, often without clear understanding of the opportunities that are offered. I would like to stress that the articulation should not be happening in a vacuum any longer, and that K-12 and college credit agencies be aware of services offered at non-credit. The scope of those services must be taken advantage of, and adult students' needs are to remain at the core of those activities. Thank you very much, again, for the opportunity to give this testimony. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you both for giving that presentation. It sounds very encouraging and consistent with what I'm hearing not only from my regional collaborative in my area, but also from other areas. I just have one question. In working toward these developing these regional collaborations, one of the concerns I've heard is, it's my understanding that the dollars, the funding for the regional collaborations are funded through the community colleges.
25% of the consortiums have K-12 as a physical agent. So about 75 to 25 is about the proportion, I believe.
75 community college, 25
Right.
local. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does that bias the collaborations in any way? The fact that 75% of the dollars come through the community colleges as opposed to 25% coming from K through 12?
Answering not as an AB 86 work group person, answer as somebody in the field. Absolutely. I mean, the notion that physical agency does not imply governance is an abstract concept that we can continue to say, but in practice, the perception is, and in language like this morning, the Department of Finance said the funding is going to the community college. The perception is that the community college will direct the activity. And I think there are lots of them in the community college that think that. And my point earlier was that perception actually is an obstacle to the quality of dialogue, the kind of planning that needs to happen and should happen. Right?
All right.
Well, I agree. It is a perception. It's just that, again, colleges are the ones that really work on making sure that the pathways from non-credit to credit are clear, and this is sort of like the ending point. So I'm not really sure if I'm prepared to talk about the justification why this is actually taking place. But obviously, from the community college perspective, it only makes sense that community colleges do take on the financial responsibility for it. I suppose they are better equipped altogether.
All right. And Dr. Janio, you made the point of how you need more time to do the adequate planning necessary, and so we appreciate that kind of feedback. It would be much appreciated if you can follow up with anything in writing which we can actually give it more the thoughtful deliberation that it deserves. Those type of real life concerns and practicalities that you're encountering. So thank you both very much for coming to testify here today.
Thank you.
We would like to wrap up with public comments. I'd like to limit the public comments to 1 minute each.
Good afternoon. Teresa Tano with the Community College League. I just wanted to reiterate a couple of points that were made by Dr. Jano, particularly as it relates to the community colleges. And we are set up differently in the context of adult education. Our monies are in our revenue limit. There's not any uncertainty about whether or not we're going to continue offering that. And so I certainly appreciate the perspective on the K-12 side. But there's some things kind of overarching that, we as a system have been undertaking related to student success. And we've recognized that we need to make some resource investment in non-credit, particularly as Dr. Jano stated, full-time faculty, professional development, non-credit matriculation services. Those are the things that we need irregardless as how this timeline and this process works out related to the adult ed program for the state. We are embedded into that process. The underlying principles of the adult ed program that the state is moving forward with, but there are some serious resource issues that we believe that can be addressed now and make us even more successful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jonathan Lightman on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. So I want to echo the comments of Dr. Jano about the full-time to part-time faculty ratio. So on the credit side, we know right now it's 56% of the instruction is taught by full-time faculty, which is way low compared to where the state goal is. On the non-credit side, I don't have a figure for you because we have no faculty obligation number on the non-credit side. I can tell you that I have been to Dr. Jano's center and I have seen what the impact is about relying on part-time faculty almost completely. And as we move forward, pretty soon the informational hearings are going to conclude and you're going to be examining the May revise and actually taking votes. And this is really important information for you as you look at what are the possibilities post-May revise in terms of perhaps looking at the CDCP rate and perhaps equalizing it with the credit rate and actually examining the issue of faculty and what we need to do to increase the full to part-time ratio, not just in the credit side, but also the non-credit side. And in keeping, we also want to put in a plug for looking at what we can do for CTE, not just in terms of one-time funds, but in terms of stabilizing. And your resolution, ACR 119, which we'll have a hearing at the end of this month, is a very good process in terms of stabilizing the CTE funding in the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is George Porter. I'm a boots-on-the-ground 13-year instructor at Berkeley Adult School. I'm also the chairman of the Berkeley City Council's Commission on Aging, and I also sit on the Stakeholders Sounding Board, I believe is what it's called. I just want to, as somewhat of an outside observer, I want to say that the consortia seems to be coming along. I've been following it. The work is being done. You can hear all these people talking about the issues that need to be hammered out. I would be remiss in my duties here as the chairman of the Commission on Aging not to bring up the fact that we still have this issue of the programs that are left outside of the consortia that might be called community support and development. That would be older adult programs, parenting, reintegrating prisoners into the community, and home things. Basically, we've been given a bit of talk about ways in which these should be self-supporting. As one who is boots on the ground, those just simply will not fly except for in better heeled communities or in communities where there are huge numbers of older adults. And to finish off on that, I too want to move forward, but we've never had a real discussion about the way in which these programs can be moved forward into this new time. I gave a handout of one of the funding mechanisms, and I think that this is something that still needs to be dealt with before this matter is over. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Valentina Pertel, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Association of Community and Continuing Education, ACE, a professional organization of non-credit practitioners with the membership of more than 60 community colleges. We strongly support the efforts of AB 86 as the way to sustain meaningful dialogue between the two providers of adult ed, and also a way of designing accessible and consistent adult ed programs throughout the state. However, we strongly believe that it is important to maintain the flexibility for local community college district to provide instructional programs in all traditional 9 categories of non-credit education, because as the previous speaker had mentioned, AB 86 focuses on only 5 core categories, and giving local districts the flexibility of providing programs would ensure prioritizing of educational dollars, but not without eliminating programs for older adults and parents. We also advocate for sustainable and equitable funding of adult ed regardless of the provider, specifically equalizing CDCP rate for non-credit programs with those of credit. And we strongly believe that expertise of faculty is essential to the implementation of systemic and significant changes in adult ed.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Casey Elliott. I'm with Townsend Public Affairs on behalf of North Orange Community College District as well as Rancho Santiago Community College District. Would just agree with several of the points that speakers have already made in terms of equitable funding, including the equalization for CDCP rates, the additional full-time faculty for non-credit courses. Additionally, funding for professional development would also be strongly supported. We look forward to continuing working through the AB 86 process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kristen Persley, and I'm an ESL teacher with West Contra Costa Adult Education, which is in Richmond. And I just want to say that the lack of of dedicated funding for adult schools has hurt us, not only, I think, in the consortium. We're about to start the teacher meetings for our consortia. I'm going to be in those meetings, and I'm worried about the fact that what's that going to mean for me to be negotiating with people whose funding is secure, and and no one knows what the funding for my school is going to be. Also, I know that I keep hearing that people on our school board, on on the K-12 side keep saying, oh, well, the adult school is going to be part of the community college anyway. So that there's even confusion about what this means. So I just really want to say that we need some dedicated funding. It needs to be made very clear that K-12 adult schools are supposed to be part of this, part of the consortia, and that we're not just being taken over by the community colleges.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Ken Ryan. I'm an adult school teacher at West Contra Costa and a community college instructor at Contra Costa College. And the LAO recommended next steps is that to use the next 2 years to tackle implementation details, one of which is to decide whether to focus all state funds on core adult education instruction. Currently, parent education is not one of those core areas, and I've just left you a handout on parenting education is economic development from the Partnership for America's Economic Success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the Career Pathways Trust Initiative. Bob Lanter, again, on behalf of the California Workforce Association, recently met with the Labor Agency and the Governor's Office to share some insights on how things are rolling out in the street. And I wanted just to discuss two challenges. While we applaud the legislature for approving the $250 million Career Pathways Trust Grant, there are two current challenges that need to be considered as we move forward. The first is that many of the K-12 organizations and community colleges have entered into friendly competition among themselves for funds that are out in the street. This has caused many workforce investment boards and chambers of commerce and community-based organizations to receive multiple requests to sign off on grant applications targeting similar industry sectors. So you may have one board receiving 7 requests to sign off on grant applications. So more coordination is needed so that we reduce duplication and increase communication to our industry sectors and employers that are participating on industry panels. Additionally, community-based organizations and workforce investment boards are in a key position to offer support services that will really increase outcomes for the students. Mental health services, transportation, child care, extended job readiness, and job placement support are key in this endeavor. While the partnership is mentioned in the RFA, it is not spelled out explicitly in grant applications as it comes back. Partnering with workforce investment boards or community-based organizations is key in sustaining the partnership beyond the funding, and we would be happy to talk to you further about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Craig Brown for the Correctional Education Division of the Hacienda La Puente Unified School District. Just as you go through this, we urge you to be careful what you do with the correctional education piece. The most important coordination is with the sheriff. Teacher can't get to the students without consent of the sheriff. And given what you've done in realignment, it's especially important that you strengthen those programs and not accidentally weaken them by sweeping them into another world. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further public comments, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.